From Immersive Labs, this is Cyber Humanity. Welcome everyone, I'm your host Chris Pace, joined once again by ex-donut dweller Paul Bentham.
Hello!
Threat research cookie Kev Breen.
Hello.
And finally Immersive Labs' very own chief cyber sausage, Max Vetter.
Hello!
So these podcasts try to focus on the human side of cybersecurity with a bit of tech thrown in, social engineering, hacker motivation, cyber crisis scenarios, that kind of thing. They essentially come in two flavours, either us ranting about themes close to the hearts of security types, or us chatting about threat and security stuff from recent weeks. And this episode is one of those. And we're going to begin by talking about a few... there was a bit of debate at the beginning about whether are they rats or are they just malware or who knows, and everyone's got an opinion. But essentially, malware doing cool new stuff this week that we've seen out there. And the first one I wanted to talk about briefly was Astaroth. You'll also notice that I feel like we're just going to get to a point where we stop even noticing the names. We're just gonna say the random name, and we're gonna go.
It's a good one. It's a great name. I like that. It's a good name. Yeah.
We should give. It's one of the better ones.
We should start rating them.
We should rate them.
Yes. We should do this every week. Okay, so Astaroth, and what name are we? What are we going to give that name out of 10, guys?
9 for me.
Wow, that's a strong.
8.5.
I'm going to go with a 7.
Ooh, wow. Kev doesn't like it. That's fine. Fair enough. Come up with a better one.
Yeah, but I like it because it feels very Thor. It feels like Ragnarok.
Yeah, well, actually, it turns out that it's right because obviously, whenever you see a malware name, the first thing you have to do is Google it to see where the name come from, and usually it is like a manga character, or some kind of mythical creature, and in this case, it's actually like a Near Eastern god. And the irony is that we're talking about two bits of malware, and they're both Near Eastern gods by complete chance. So there you go. So Astaroth is a Mesopotamian god, I think.
I'm going to change my score because I've just Googled it. Is the Great Duke of Hell in the first hierarchy with Beelzebub and Lucifer. So 8.
Nice.
Oh, what? One whole more point. It's like his soul was on the line. When Kev's soul is on the line, you get one more point.
Yes.
+1.
+1.
So Astaroth is not a new bit of malware, and in fact, over the last year, it's evolved into like they're calling it like one of the stealthiest threats that there is. I think Cofense have done a bit of research on this, and also Cisco Talis as well. But it's actually one of the things that's interesting about it is the effort that is put into evading detection and analysis. Is the first thing. So a lot of effort seems to go into like actually stopping it being either detected or stopping it being analyzed, and I'm sure Kev can talk in quite a lot of detail about what some of those things are more specifically. But the thing that took my eye was the fact that it uses connections to YouTube video. I don't know what's in the YouTube videos, but connections to YouTube, the descriptions in YouTube videos to get the command and control server information to give back to the malware so that it can talk to whoever's running it, which I just think is brilliant. First of all, Kev, what is actually in those descriptions that it's like, what's it getting from there?
It's encoded data, and it's command and control. So it's like, what command do you want me to run? Like, what's the next thing you want me to do? It's all that kind of stuff, and it's just encoded in descriptions. And this isn't the first time we've seen this kind of technique. So the reason attackers will use this is to avoid like whitelists and blocklists. Like, I'm nastymalware.tk is probably going to get blocked by a lot of firewalls. YouTube probably not going to get blocked. So it's a way of bypassing its filter evasions and that kind of nature. And we've actually seen APT groups use this. APT, and I'm going to look up at my board, APT 17 back in like 2015 used Microsoft TechNet blog to a similar effect.
That just feels like a joke. That just feels like they were taking a mickey a little bit.
Yeah, they did the same thing. So in TechNet blogs, in posts, they would leave comments, and inside those comments were encoded command and control.
Clearly, all TechNet posts have been taken off all firewall rules because the techies need to get to Microsoft TechNet blog.
To know how to turn it off and turn it back on again.
Yeah, exactly.
We've seen Twitter used to the same effect. We've seen Discord used to the same effect.
Yes, I've seen that. The Twitter statuses.
We've seen MSN Messenger back in the day. Like this is nothing new. It's not been used in a while. Like it's I haven't seen it used actively recently, but yeah, it's fun.
And some of the other things that it does is it also is back to that, and because I thought you'd have something to add here. But this whole idea of the kind of anti-analysis features that it has, some of which seem to be like looking to see whether it's being opened by a virtual machine or in a sandbox and stuff like that.
Yeah, and again, like these themselves are nothing new. I think it's just the heavy loading of all of these. A lot of malware like Dark Comet and other things like commodity malware, they have these same options. And we saw these trending really, really strongly a couple of years ago, or maybe even a bit longer than that, where it was, if I'm running in a virtual machine, like detect and like stop that happening. And then we saw the attackers drifting away from this because of more people going cloud native. You actually want your malware to be able to run in the cloud. Because that's where people run their infrastructure these days. But yeah, there's a lot of it in there, and it takes a lot of things. And a lot of that is specific to... so VirusTotal is a really big place for people to upload malware and get their analysis. But you can fingerprint their sandboxes fairly easily, looking for names, and that's some of the techniques that the attackers are doing here.
So Kurt, how good are these anti-analysis and anti-sandbox techniques? Can you how well do they stop you doing reverse engineering on it?
It doesn't stop you. What it does is, as an analyst, it slows me down. So when I start this process, I have to look. You'll see them, and then you have to reconfigure your machine, or you have to patch, or you have to put some other technique in place. So like the anti-debugging stuff, most debuggers come with an anti-debugger. So you just have to start enabling these. And it takes time.
Seems like a lot of effort to go to stop something that they know is going to happen eventually anyway.
Yeah, and there's other ways around it as well. So one of the things we used to do, if we needed a piece of malware analyzing really, really quickly, we used to use Cuckoo Sandbox, and we had a physical device with a hard drive that was replaceable. We'd just rebuild it. We'd run the malware on there, so it would bypass all these checks, so we could get stuff out of it really quickly through the dynamic analysis, and then just go on to the slower static stuff later. So it slows you down, but all these techniques could be bypassed for the analyst.
Is this Astroth thing also using Lowwin?
It does, and that's part of their infection process takes off like 6 or 7 different MITRE techniques just on like the delivery and infection phase alone. There's 3 or 4 stages to the loader, including some Lowwin stuff.
Wait, we need my button. We do need my button. I mean, it's early in the episode, but we do need my button. Thank you, Kev.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
Because Astaroth's a malware that we've tracked for some time now, and we have content in our platform related to how the Astaroth malware is using the Lowwins, because I think Astaroth not particularly... Well, it's interesting as per this conversation, but the Lowwin stuff is more... pervasive throughout multiple different actors and multiple different campaigns, and you get hands-on in the platform if you're a subscriber.
You can, yeah. So we've got stuff on like LNK file analysis, on the use of bits admin, DLL injection, analyzing JavaScript. We cover off almost all of those stages at some point in some of our labs.
Another thing that's kind of interesting about it, more from the point of view of attribution, it only seems to target Brazilian like infrastructure in Brazil, or machines in Brazil. I don't think we really know why that is. I mean, there are obviously a lot of like Brazilian banking Trojans, Brazilian info stealing Trojans, like they are a thing. That's probably a thing that we could discuss. Like, why are they a thing? I have no clue.
I think
but
that's
they are
really
a thing.
mean.
Well, it's true, but it's true though that they have a very specific sort of reputation, don't they?
I know, but Brazil's a great country. I love Brazil. Brazilian barbecue. Rio, amazing place. Honestly, it's not fair to target Brazil.
So, going to the
I don't think that's
root-
fair.
Well, I'm not targeting Brazil. Astaroth is targeting Brazil.
Well,
we
then
don't- we
they
don't
are
agree it's a
mean
good
and they
idea.
shouldn't.
going to the root of the question. So, we see targeted stuff used in two different ways. So, this one's using a language detection, looking for Portuguese as your set language. We see that both in targeting and target prevention. So we see a lot of stuff coming out of Russia where it deliberately doesn't target other Russian languages.
Yeah.
So it's not just in the targeting, it's also in the don't target these devices as well.
And I'm pretty sure I read somewhere way back that like Brazil's something like second in terms of online financial crime, and I think some of that is to do with there's some weird stuff around population density. I'm guessing also it's to do with the fact that probably it's easier to get away with cybercrime maybe in Brazil itself. So these are probably Brazilian threat actors targeting other Brazilians.
Yeah, if you like the FBI, NSA, like they're well known for taking down infrastructure, especially if they're targeting Americans. So by confining yourself to like a country that don't have great ties with America, that don't have such strong cybersecurity laws, then you're going to draw less attention, or you're less likely to have your operation shut down. It's another possibility.
And this is back to that thing the Russians don't in lots of examples Russian cybercriminal groups do not they deliberately exclude Russia from their targets. That's some things that the malware actually does is to exclude Russia.
Yeah, that like we mentioned before, the language checks, they're not just used to target, they're used to avoid targeting yourself as well.
Yeah, I think there was a good story from the darknet before it was the darknet, which was the Russians had a whole criminal underworld, and they all agreed not to attack Russian brother, Mother Russia. I said that a few times, Mother Russia, because they were pretty much told explicitly by the authorities, if you attack the West, it's all right. If you attack us, we're coming after you. So it's quite interesting, how that happens in Russia as well.
All right, so that is Astaroth. And now we're going to move on to our next Near Eastern god, Anubis. And I think Max, you've been looking at Anubis, and
so
what's that all about?
So
Sorry,
what
point of order. We need to score it first. Come on.
Wait,
Sorry.
Yeah, we'll score it. Let me tell you.
Anubis.
So Anubis, this might help Kev. Anubis is the god of mummification and the afterlife, as well as the patron god of lost souls and the helpless.
Oh,
You know what?
I feel almost sorry for Anubis.
Well, hang on. Malware in 10 years' time is going to be dreadful. I mean, all the cool names are going to have been used up, and then in 10 years' time, they're going
They'll
to be
just have to put one on
Anubis
the end, like
2.
the rest of us trying to sign up for a website. Anubis 29.
This is getting a 6 from me.
It's poor.
you don't like
It's going to
Anubis?
be a 5. It's bad. It's no Astaroth.
Yeah.
Anubis is such a well-known name. It's like it's got a brand of its own. So yeah, I'm coming in at a 4.
Whoa.
I'll
Whoa.
go. I won't go that
it's
low.
bad.
I'll go 5.7.
You liked it first.
Okay.
You've let the crowd bring you down, Max. You were a
Yeah,
bit
yeah,
angry.
I know.
Peer
It is.
pressure.
I mean, it's quite a cool Trojan.
We're going to
So
have to do
It's been around since.
fist to 5 next time. Sorry, Max, to interrupt. We're going to have to do like hand voting on rather than all this kind of peer pressure.
Yeah, exactly. So we all go at the same time.
Exactly.
But yeah, Anubis has been around since 2017. It's kind of a sophisticated bit of banking Trojan as well as other malware that affects Android apps. And yeah, there's been a variety of campaigns. The latest update, which is pretty cool, it adds basically it checks whether you're looking at your phone, and if you are looking at your phone, it stops working. So you won't even tell that the malware
is
is
so
running.
cool.
Oh, hello.
Which is pretty cool.
It's
Also,
quite a nice addition.
yeah, they also apparently installed Yandex Maps. I know Yandex is really well known in Russia, so maybe that's.
No, I tell you what that is. I bet that's a paper download thing. I bet it's pointing the phone to a paid for link, and they're getting paid per click for every phone they install that on. That's the only reason for them to do that, or to track
Well,
location, I suppose.
Well, yeah, they think
They're
it's
using
to
it to
track
track
location.
location.
Yeah, which is pretty scary, I suppose. Not that malware on your own device isn't scary anyway. But yeah, it's done a variety of. It's kind of got better and better through the years. Stealing a variety of things like key
Why is
logging,
this in the
user
press?
credentials. All
Why is
that
this in the
stuff.
press this week, Max?
Because of that new addition of the looking at
Because
the
it can see when I'm looking at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and
so it's
what?
pretty-
And is it
pretty
just
smart.
Android?
Yeah. Yeah, I think well, iPhone and they're a lot less
Vulnerable.
attacked, aren't they?
So if I go to the Play Store, can I download Anubis, or am I going to download some dodgy app?
you could
It sounds
probably
cool,
search
I
for
like
the
it.
right app. Yeah, we should
So,
download it
there's-
and analyze
I'm on it.
There's a lot to unpick there. So, whilst it's true that on occasion, on more than one occasion, like significant amounts of times, like malware does make its way into the Android App Store.
This is Kev's way. This is Kev's
there are a
way.
lot
As a
of-
Google
there
fanboy,
I'm
I'm
with
trying
Kev.
to cover the fact that Google made it.
Google's great. Google's
Google,
great.
oh, I
Don't
just love
start.
Google. And look,
There-
it's really rare. It's really rare that malware gets on there, but
it's not
sometimes it does.
It's not really rare. It's
Love you,
less rare than
Sergey.
it was. But like a lot of this stuff is side load. Shut up! I'm trying to make a point. Oh,
Let me
it's done.
strip down to my Google pants.
Damn you
Sorry,
all to
Kev.
iPhone hell.
Sorry, Kev. You were saying occasionally malware does sneak onto the App Store.
But
Sorry, Google Play.
significant- A lot of the time, it is people sideloading applications in from untrusted sources
Yeah.
or from other app stores.
Right,
This is
hang
like
on,
a
hang on,
basic
hang on. I have installed like all kinds of like ROMs, custom ROMs on my phones over the years. I haven't sideloaded apps for about 5 years. Who's still doing that? Apart from Amazon, who don't get me on an Amazon Fire rant because I will be here all night.
And
Oh
that's
yeah, I've
the-
tried side loading on the Fire Stick as well. Yeah,
It's just
I've done that.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Why? What is wrong with you, Amazon?
Why
There's
can I have
important-
Sky on my phone but not on my Fire Stick? I wonder.
Why can't I Chromecast Amazon Prime?
You can now. It's fixed.
Well, they only recently did that.
Anyway,
It's ridiculous. And don't get me
There's an
started about the Fire app thing for children. It is the worst. I mean, Chris has had my rant about this.
I've heard this rant before.
It is not good. Right, here's what happens, right? You take a 4-year-old onto a plane, and what have you... No, I'm doing it. I'm doing the rant. This is your own
This is all getting
fault.
cut out. This
It's
is
not
all
going to get cut out. It's not getting cut out. This is the most
Outtakes.
important
Amazing.
rant I've ever done. You take a Fire Kindle thing onto a plane with a 4-year-old for a multiple-hour flight, and you want all the content you've downloaded. What's the first thing it does when you turn it on the plane? It asks for an internet connection. Why is it doing that? I have downloaded content. I have a 4-year-old that needs that content. Why would you do that? What is wrong with you, Amazon?
That's pretty good.
Anyway, security.
so rant, which may or may not have been cut aside, the interesting point you've made there about sideloading applications and the fact that it's very uncommon shows the targeting of this thing. This thing isn't targeting big business; it's targeting people who are going to sideload in that free application you can download from this janky website to give you free IPTV.
Yeah, both of
or
them.
free
Both of them on xdaforums.com.
Yeah. That's exactly where this stuff comes from. It's typically not in the App Store.
If you're a corporation, one of the first things you do if you're using mobile device management is turn off installing applications from anywhere other than the official Play Store. So yeah, it's clearly if you're downloading and installing dodgy stuff from dodgy places, I'm not really
Expect
sure
to
what you
get
expect.
compromised.
Yeah.
Stuff has snuck past. Like there is malware that has made its way through to the Google Play Store. It's not a thing that's going to disappear. It's just there's not as much of it. And the iPhone store, whatever they call themselves, are significantly better at preventing this. But because they have a much tighter model and less freedom for developers to create, which enhances their security but decreases their pool.
Still managed to tell us about a rampant security flaw whilst ending it by saying, "But freedom of people to develop applications and." Yeah, okay. Is that it on that? You got anything else, Max?
What were we talking about? What is the Anubis? I've no idea what it is. Is it Android malware?
It's Android malware.
Yeah,
Android
it's
banking Trojan.
Banking Trojan.
What is a
and other
banking
malware.
Trojan?
There are several variants of different types of banking Trojans. Some of them will do web injects. So when you visit your bank in a website, it will inject HTML frames to say you also need to add your PIN number and your social security number and your full address and your mother's maiden name. They're like web inject kind of stuff. Other ones just pretend outright to be a banking application and try and trick you into logging into their application to steal your credentials. Some will try and intercept like the two-factor side. So it's just there to intercept the text message that you receive to validate you are who you say you are, so that when they issue a transaction on your behalf and you get a text message, they silently intercept that, don't show it to you, send that back to the command and control center, and away they go. There are other variants as well.
How do they get around when it sends you a text and that kind of stuff? Can they intercept those as well?
And now, a word from our sponsors.
Oh wait, hang on, I can't help here. Kev, bail me out.
No, I know. I know. I set it up. I know because I set it up perfectly.
So this is a thing that was some research that came out a couple of years ago, and SS7 is the signaling system number 7. It's the backbone of telecommunications. It's how text messages are sent. It's all in the clear. It's not encrypted. You do need privileged access to be able to gain access to it for the most part, but that can be bought through people. And we at Immersive Labs, we have simulated an SS7 network along with a bank, and you can intercept the two-factor authentications in exactly the same way the attackers did by intercepting those SS7 communications, capturing the two-factor token and replaying them to the website.
Hey, wait. Were the attackers
really
manipulating
cool.
SS7 or were they on the device?
No, they were in the SS7 network.
Wow.
So
They
as
sound
a
like an
telecom
APT to me.
As a telecoms provider, you can buy access. So you just buy access and you get plugged in. If you've got an insider threat at an existing telecoms provider, he can plug you in. So there are ways in.
So essentially, even two-factor authentication is not safe.
Over SMS.
And that's over SMS. And this is why we see a lot of people shift away to physical
Yeah,
tokens.
right.
Like
Nobody should
user
trust
keys
SMS
or,
for second factor.
Fingerprint. Use your fingerprint.
or biometrics, like SMS. It's just really annoying. I had to change my address on something, and I emailed them, and they told me that email wasn't secure. Could I fax them instead, please? This was a year ago.
But hang on, facts though. My wife to this day in 2020 thinks that fax is still magic. Like you put some paper in, and then it comes out of the other end. It's amazing.
Sends the paper.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? Imagine if you could send like presents for it and stuff like that. Just the scanner doesn't scan presents. It doesn't work.
So they are the many forms of banking Trojans and some of the techniques they used.
All right, so the dreaded APT word got dropped in, and Paul, you shared something about. We're going to get into talking about Mars, but Paul shared a MAR with us. Anyone want to decrypt the acronym for us?
Malware analysis report.
Malware
It's
analysis
so
report.
great. It tells you everything about what North Korea have been doing.
From the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency.
And we've got more names. We've got more names of.
Yeah, no.
malware.
These are great. Like, hang on, we should do this. We should do like.
We're going to score this one.
No, we should. Well, I don't know whether we should score them. Like, it should be like it's not hype or hacked, but it. I mean, they are dreadful.
Who
Well,
wants to
this
start
this
us off?
malware is this Copperheads we're talking about.
Copperheads.
Pebble Dash is the one I'm thinking
Pebble
of.
Dash.
Oh, come on!
You can tell
There's
that
not one-
Americans came up with this
There's
one.
not one called
Pebble
Pebble
Dash.
Dash. Where was that? I didn't see that in there.
It's
Where's
the
that?
third one down.
Pebble
so,
Dash.
That's the third from North Korea. So it's
They don't know
Copperheads.
what it means. Although, to be
Copper-
fair, Americans, when you're double parked, Americans call that double fisted, which is
Yeah.
a whole different thing in
Which
the
is a
UK.
whole other thing.
Yeah, we had
That's
some of
worse
the
than
guys from the
pebble
American
dashing, to be
office.
It's worse
Yeah,
than pebble dashing.
yeah. Copperheads, Tainted Scribe, and Pebble Dash is the three. from
Tainted
North
Scribe
Korea.
makes me immediately want to sing Soft Cell or whoever it is. I can hear that. I can hear that
Tainted
drum intro.
Tainted scribe.
Oh wow, there's loads. There's loads actually. Like hot croissant as well.
Okay. So perhaps
Yeah.
we'll just stick to the ones that are in the MAR. And Copperhead I'm sorry, is lame. That's that's no more than a 2. It's barely interesting. It describes nothing. So I'm.
I think the Americans. I think the.
No from me.
Well, hang on. Oh, we're scoring it. Sorry, I got
Yeah,
very
scoring
excited.
That's what we do first. We score it.
What's
It's
the one
a-
tainted
It's
scribe?
a 0.
No, Copperhead.
Copperhead.
3.
It's a
I'll
It's a
I'll
null
give it a
from me.
4. I think I'm
Oh,
nicer
gosh,
than
it's
you
fine.
guys.
But it's a
Yeah.
different thing. But this is is it a name for a what is it? What
That's
is
It's
the
the name of the
malware.
North Korean remote access tool. It's the name of
Remote
the malware.
access tool.
Oh, it's dreadful, isn't it? You can tell
Yes.
that no vendors were involved in the making. This is a government issued cover name, isn't it?
But
Yeah, I'm
what-
sure
what
some
I-
vendors come up with a better one, but
What I want to discuss about these Mars is, I mean, there's a lot of information here, right? And I read the first 5 paragraphs and got nowhere other than knowing that the FBI are involved, the DOD are involved, the DHS
Called
are
Hidden
involved.
Cobra.
You know,
Hidden
it's just-
Cobra.
yeah.
okay,
That's
now
been the
that
first
one's
3
good. I'm giving
paragraphs.
that a 6. Hidden Cobra, that was strong.
Hidden Cobra.
Yeah.
It's just a list of rubbish things that the Americans have done, and it gives you no information about the malware. at all.
Wow.
They've published a MAR that tells us that they know about malware, and they've got
Yeah.
lots of agencies who also know about malware. But importantly, that the FBI has a high confidence that Hidden Cobra actors are using malware variants to maintain a presence on victims' networks and further network exploitation.
There are some interesting things in the MAR. There are some technical descriptions in here. You have to dig through it and find it, which is
You have to scroll
really
past
annoying.
the page fold.
Yeah, you have to get past the list of 3,000 IOCs.
Oh, really? The
Hang on,
interesting stuff is right at the bottom.
I'm still scrolling. I'm gonna ring them 888-282-0870. I'm gonna ask them about it.
Chris, you need to pick up and ask Kev what an IOC is.
Yeah, I know. I set him up for it, and he just walked.
Oh,
straight past
sorry.
it.
I
It
thought
wasn't-
we
it
were gonna. I
wasn't
thought we were gonna. I thought we were gonna talk a little bit about what this thing actually does. Like someone shared
is
the
it?
MAR.
I don't know. It doesn't tell me.
Nobody
This is what's
knows.
annoying me.
Oh, is that the point? Is that why it was being
Yeah, I
shared?
don't-
Paul, didn't you share it initially?
I just said it was interesting.
Oh,
didn't read
you
it.
hadn't read it.
I suppose that was my point, was that it has a lot of really, really hyper-technical information, but it doesn't have
got
any
zero
clear
context.
context of why this malware
Are we
is
still
good
talking, or are
or...
we?
I don't know.
Here's the
We
thing,
could-
right? Can we talk about Pebble Dash?
Why are we still talking about Pebble Dash?
Well,
We've
because
lost them, Chris. We've lost them.
the MD5 hash of the header is 735.665. You don't. Shall I continue?
Probably not. It doesn't
No.
describe it. It doesn't describe in any real detail what it is or does. I don't
No.
think. It says it's in a family of malware that's used by a particular threat actor group, which is great. And it says that it targets cryptocurrency exchanges and related entities. And then there's a ton of other extra information.
Hang on, I know you wanted to come in here, Kev, but I've decoded it. I've decoded it before. I've decoded it. Right, so I've read the antivirus names for it. It's a Trojan horse, and
I'm so glad you're here.
and I'm gonna guess it's Windows 32-bit.
Nice. So,
Nice.
Kev, what are you supposed to do with all of these? So, to our original point, what are you meant to do with all this list of stuff here, of which there is a
So-
lot?
There is a lot, and a MAR it's not even subtly different; it's radically different to other reports and vendor things. So a malware analysis report is designed to give information to your network defenders, to your threat hunters, and it gives them a load of rich technical data that they need. So lots of IOCs in here, lots of Yara rules, lots of things you can create signature-based detections on, so you can get these into your SIEM.
Well, I tell you the bit I don't understand. So I like the fact that it's telling us about a new strain. It seems a new strain of an existing malware. I think that's interesting. What annoys me is that when you find a headline and someone's written a story about it, the headline straight away is like North Korean malware. Like, why does it matter that it's North Korea? Like, you should be bothered about what it can do and the potential risk that it poses. Which, in fairness to the researcher, is exactly what they've done. Like, and I've read the tweets from the person who's shared the research, and they haven't felt the need to refer to North Korea. But
Attribution is important, especially when, if you look at this MAR is like several thousand lines long, and there are several thousand IOCs. If you were to take every MAR and every indicator of compromise, you're going to have like millions and millions of things. If your enterprise was to ingest all of those, like, you'd have to slow traffic down to snail's pace to be able to analyze everything against every indicator of compromise.
isn't that what
So
threat intel platforms are for, though? That's what they're for.
It
They're for
is.
this.
It's for exactly this, and like telling you it's North Korea may or may not help you adequately determine whether you're a target and whether you should be interested in this or not.
So you talked about putting stuff in the sim. Like, what happens to it then? Is it an active process? Like, we will go and look for this stuff, or we will correlate what's going on in our network with these IOCs, or is it more reactive, like sitting back and waiting for the machinery to tell you? Like, or probably a combination of the two, I guess.
Yeah, it's exactly that. And depending on the maturity of your organization, there's two things at play here. So one is you subscribe to a threat feed that's going to cost you hundreds of thousands of pounds, and you get a raw stream of every MD5, every SHA, and every domain. That goes into your SIEM, and that gives you real-time-ish protection. The other part, these are, from my perspective, the more interesting things, is when people share things like Yara rules. So Yara rules is a syntax for kind of like regular expressions for files, and they allow you to really quickly classify and scan for known malware families without knowing the exact MD5. So if the attacker changes a single byte, that hash is useless to you, but Yara rules are incredibly powerful for network threat hunters to go and find those. They're also, you find them in a lot of next-gen firewalls as well. So for one, you have automatic ingestion, like through a sticks and taxi setup that pushes them into your SIEM. For the other, you have threat hunters who are actively going out, running these rules across your estate, looking for known bad.
Okay, so I think what we learned is there's a ton of potentially really useful information in there to help you with uncovering this if it happens to be in your network. But actually, the fact that it originates from North Korea is a bit meh. Like,
Well,
can't be that bothered.
I know that they doubted my reason for talking about this originally, but it is the 3-year anniversary of WannaCry, which has been blamed on North Korea, right? So these are 3 related to WannaCry,
So they're trying to do it on the same day.
right? And that's
Because
why,
they love an anniversary,
That's why the
yeah.
NSA right? And you got Copperheads, Change Scribe, and Pebble Dash, my favourite Pebble Dash, of course. Like, it's interesting.
It's always interesting. It's whether it's relevant or not that we're more concerned about.
I suppose the difficulty I have is you look at it because it says North Korea rather than because it says a really, really bad Trojan that's going to really wreck your company.
Exactly.
I tell you
you're
what,
looking at it for the
I'd be
wrong
super
reason.
embarrassed if we got like exploited by Pebble Dash.
So annoying.
Quite embarrassing. Americans
I'd
should
be
look.
embarrassed to get Pebble Dash as well.
Yeah, Americans listening to this should look that up. It's probably on Urban Dictionary.
Urban Dictionary. Oh, actually, if you Google it, which I did earlier, you just get lots of beautiful images of Pebble Dashed buildings.
Houses. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe in your search
It's not that one.
All right, that's enough chit chat about serious and interesting stuff. Wanted us to finish off with the return. I nearly called it the return of Sodden Akibi, but Sodden Akibi or Revils or Revil, or however you say it, like it's continual hacking of everyone and everything. It just turns out that they're threatening to release now a 750 gigabyte list of A-list celeb contracts, recording deals, other personal information that they are alleging that they have stolen from a law firm in New York, the law firm Grubman Shire. Marcellus and Sachs, big New York firm, and this what we're noticing about these guys is they go to the media as soon as there's a whiff they might not get paid. They go straight to the media and say, well, we've got all this data, you really should pay, you really need to be thinking about paying this ransom. They feel a bit mercenary to me.
The interesting thing for me is, how did you not see 750 gigs leave your network? That's not everybody's bandwidth must have dropped when they were started sending that out. How do you not see that much data leave? Especially as a law firm.
Yeah, they're not looking at their rules or their data going in or
No.
out.
Nobody's looking at that.
They might just assume it's someone watching YouTube.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've
Spike on
uploaded about that
weekends.
much in the last just talking all this nonsense on this podcast.
DLP might have helped there. Again, we don't know enough details to know exactly how they were compromised, how that data was exfiltrated, to be able to draw any real conclusions. But to the point, Revil back in, we're seeing lots and
They're
lots
good.
of this.
Can we buy shares in these guys? They're good.
They have got this down.
They've got it down. I mean, they're
And
just
I love that
picking off the low-hanging fruit here.
Yeah, so they set up a website on Tor that they own, according to the reports they own, which lists dozens of organisations that they've compromised. But in this case, it has screenshots of folders, non-disclosure agreement, Madonna's 2019 to 2020 tour arrangements, Christina Aguilera's music rights, and all this stuff they're sharing as proof of the fact that they've basically hacked them. Also, the law firm is saying nothing, which I'm sure that all of their massively high-profile clients are absolutely delighted about. But yeah, it seems that they are pretty serious about ensuring that their victims pay the ransom, and the way that they expedite getting those victims to pay that ransom is by basically sharing as quickly as possible that they have access to compromised data. And I think that's the move in the goalpost. The move in the goalpost is from like the WannaCry that we were just talking about. WannaCry 3 years ago today, and WannaCry was, you've been encrypted, pay the ransom. And actually, what this is, you've been encrypted. And we've exfiltrated data, which we could share at any point with anyone. So maybe, I don't know, pay the ransom. I think that lever, that extra lever that they're prepared to pull, and all those extra levers that they're prepared to pull, make them actually pretty terrifying as a threat goes.
I think it's brilliant.
And that's the key word. That's the key word. It's terrifying. It's fear. They're playing to fear. It's that human element. It's like, there's significant damage that can be done to people's lives, and people are going to be scared about that. And it's that fear that drives you to pay the ransom.
I'd pay it. You got to pay it in this situation. But what I'm really interested in is whoever's pointing Sodden Akibi at these targets. Are they targeting them, or do you think they're like just random that they're hitting these and then?
I think it's a bit of everything. I think this group, they're paying for access if they find people selling it. I think they're going out on engagements and looking for stuff, and I think they're accidentally going to discover stuff.
In this context, 756 gig, they must have targeted them specifically to get that much data. They might have got in there by accident to start with and got a foothold, and then to get that much data out, they should have. You don't just get that by accident.
Yeah, and of course it would also suggest that it's not automatic. Like we know have when we were looking at Travelex, like we understood that they were present on the network without asking for ransom and without encrypting machines sometime before, in order to gather this kind of leverage in the event that they would need it. And like I've just alluded to, they were ready at the drop of a hat to talk to the BBC and say, we've got data. They should think about paying the ransomware, and this is what they should think about paying the ransom, and this is what we're demanding. And it cost Travelex. It cost Travelex two point something million, right? I mean, it's
Which
probably
is-
going to cost these guys money too.
Do we
Which
know
is
how they
nothing.
got
Remember-
on? Do we know how they got on, Kev? What's the exploit they got on there? Yeah.
We've got no we don't know any of the details about how they got in yet. But on that, remember this is ransomware as a service. They have affiliates. So it's not just the Sodnikibi group going out, but they're actually sending affiliates out, and affiliates will get a cut of whatever payment comes out of this. As a business model, it's impressive.
Yeah, I like it.
I
mean, I don't like it. I don't.
I'm a fan.
endorse it. But
Sodnikibi,
you gotta respect it.
Sodnikibi, like 5 out of 10 for the name, but generally, I'm a fan.
It's got to have a better brand. I mean, we should
Paul,
rebrand
said
it.
Paul Bentham of Immersive Labs.
It's a quite good like middle point where they're showing it on the dark web, so they know they're proving they've got it. They're saying pay the ransom, and they're using dark web, open web, and ransomware. It's kind of all coming together quite nicely for them.
Yeah, it's like a multi-stage approach to how to maximize damage when it comes to ransomware and the targeted net. To me, if I'm an organization, I care a lot more about this than that MAR on North Korea. This is what I'm terrified of. If I've got a client base of any kind, if I'm dealing with any kind of personally identifiable or financial data, this terrifies me. And that is, to me, this is where the point gets missed. I think, like, we care a lot more about this than we care about North Korea, probably.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
As a network defender, this is what I care about. This stuff getting in the door. And that's really going to terrify me. That's going to do significantly more damage in terms of reputation. Like APT stuff, it's under the wire. They're sealing IP. They're not publicly displaying it. So, you get to maintain your organizational external view. With stuff like this, it's damaging.
It's not even from the threat hunter point of view. Like, this is CEOs in a room shouting at people for weeks. The threat hunter's being shouted at probably at one point, but it's everyone else in the executive that is like, what decision we're going to do? Are we going to pay? Are we not? Are we? What do we do? And they're a group of lawyers as well, so they have probably a lot of legal fees going down right now. So it's the decision making from top to bottom, isn't it?
Well, you should always pay. My view is you should always pay the ransom.
As a member of the Reveal gang, I think you should always
I'm
pay.
just saying,
Said
you should
Paul
always-
Bentham of Immersive Labs.
I just say you should always pay. It's the quickest way to resolution, and it keeps the threat actors in business, which therefore keeps cybersecurity going. Woo! Nobody cheerleading for that. I mean, that ethically not the right side.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
What do you do? I mean, I would always pay the ransom, but maybe I'm a little bit trigger happy with other people's money. But the exercising is a really important thing here. And if one of the things that are in our product roadmap that we're about to launch, like a little bit of a trailer, is how to help organizations exercise their cyber readiness. And definitely watch this space for a new product coming in to help with those decision making.
And on that intriguingly vague bombshell, we must bring things to an end. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please do subscribe, rate, and comment wherever you get your audio content. And if you want to know more about Immersive Labs, you can find us at immersivelabs.com or follow us on Twitter at Immersive Labs UK. Until next time, from all of us, goodbye.